Hey everybody, it's Friday. That means it's time to take a look at the best comments and questions of the week and try to answer them the best that I can. Let's see who gets pissed off this week.
I just listened to Judas Priest for the first time after hearing you talk about them so often. Holy fuck, what the hell happened to music? Nowadays, we have all the tech available, and most of the music out there isn't even close to that emotion. They don't have the best guitar tone ever, nor the best drum sound by today's standard, but you just can't help but headbang to these songs. People are so obsessed with perfection that we forgot about getting great performance and true emotion.
Yes, that's what I've been saying for 4 years. Even though we have all this great technology available, the humanity has become lost. We're censoring it out. We're not hearing the musicians play anymore. We're hearing the musicians plus editing. We're hearing the musicians plus samples. We're not hearing the struggle or the strain in a vocalist anymore. We're hearing computer enhancement. And let's just be honest here. If you need a computer to fix it, you probably need to practice more.
My first mix sucks. Is that normal?
Yes, your first mix is gonna suck, your second mix is gonna suck, and your mixes are probably gonna suck for a number of years until you finally get better. The trick is to not give up. The trick is to persevere and work at your craft. It's not something you learn overnight. It does take time, but you can get better. Best of luck with that, dude.
Hey Glenn, love the channel. How much is expected to get done realistically in 2 days recording 16 hours?
Depending on the band, you can get a crap load of stuff done in 16 hours. I remember I sponsored a Battle of the Bands one year for like our local suicide prevention hotline. And the band that won came in and tracked 2 songs in 8 hours. And we tracked, mixed, and mastered, and we're out the door with 2 finished tracks in 8 freaking hours, and that was great. The band was called Nuclear Sunrise, and they totally kicked ass. They're kind of a funk rock band, and I had a lot of fun on that session, actually. And to follow up on that band, they went into a studio, 6 months later, a different studio, and decided to spend more time, and just got bogged down in re-recording the guitars because they weren't happy with the tone, and re-recording them, and re-recording them, and re-recording them. Sometimes having a time limit can be a huge factor into making a great product. Sometimes a little bit of that pressure can go a long way into getting a great performance out of a musician. So yeah, 2 16-hour days, yeah. If you limit the band to that, you might just get something awesome.
Hey Glenn, do you use a noise gate? I'm always getting feedback from my guitar due to high gain and active pickups, and I can't seem to get a handle on it. Any suggestions on how to handle situations like this? Cheers from Idaho.
Interesting. I used to play with a Jackson Flying V with passives, and that thing used to feedback like crazy because the pickups would just kind of vibrate in the body. And when I swapped them out for EMGs, the humming problem went away. So, I'm not sure what to do there, but yes, I would recommend a gate. That would be probably a really smart place to start. A great method for working with a gate is this. Turn the gate on for your rhythms and turn it off for your leads so you can learn how to play that feedback and get awesome sounds. I know that's what Dimebag Darrell used to do on stage. Great thing is you can get gate pedals for pretty damn cheap these days. Check out the Harley Battens or the Joyos. They're a great place to start and not spend a whole lot of money.
Hey Glenn, why in the world do some bands sound better out live and not in the recording? Do you have any idea what's causing that?
Ooh, there's a few bands that definitely fit that criteria. Deep Purple comes to mind. Those guys are phenomenal live, and I don't think they've ever quite caught that vibe on record, although they've come close a couple times. Judas Priest is another band that's really incredible live that sometimes it doesn't quite translate as well into the studio. Because there's something to be said for musicians playing together and, just working in this amazing feedback loop where they're all kind of, playing off of each other. You see that in rock, sometimes you see that in jazz an awful lot. The trick is in the studio, you've got to be able to pull that off. And that's not always the easiest thing to do, especially when you start recording bands and musicians individually and piece by piece. You kind of lose that.
Sorry if this is a stupid question, but what is the difference between miking up a 4x12 and a 2x12? Surely you're only miking the one speaker, right? Cheers from Ireland and fuck you, Glenn.
Not a stupid question at all. I think that's a perfectly reasonable question, to be honest with you. The big difference is cabinet resonance, because the wood of the cabinet is going to affect the sound. A Mesa cabinet and Engel cab are 2 very different sounding things. One's Baltic birch, the other Siberian birch, and one's about twice as thick as the other. The same kind of principle applies with 2x12s and 4x12s, because a 4x12, there's just a lot more mass there, and there's a lot more for the speakers to push off of, and 4 speakers are going to make that wood of the cabinet resonate differently than a 2x12 will. Even a 2x12 Mesa cabinet versus a 4x12 Mesa cabinet is going to have a very different sound. We've shot that out a few times here on the show. If you go through my archives, I'm sure you can find something. For what it's worth, there is a reason why I record 4x12s and a lot of other guys do too as well. They just sound great.
Glenn, do you know a spell that can raise the old school metal sound from the grave? The sounds of Purple, Uriah, Dio, Sabbath. It always sounded full, fat, where the atmosphere to the song was in not having it perfect to the ear, and it appears that those types of sounds or ambiences of sound are not welcome on recordings in this day and age.
Well, I don't know any spells because magic is fucking bullshit, but the simplest way to get those sounds back is quite simply turn off pitch correction. That will be a really good start.
Glenn, how do you organize studio time? How do you judge how long something like a single EP will take? I'm struggling with giving quotes because I'm charging hourly and don't want to underquote people.
I tell a band this: if you can't do a song in 15 hours, something's seriously wrong. I tell a band, budget for 15 hours per song for how many songs you want to do. That's generally my rule of thumb. Anywhere between 10 and 15 it usually winds up being. If they need longer than that, they need to practice more.
A lot of metal bands have 2 guitar players. I know about double or even quad and sextuple tracking for a single guitar, but how do you approach recording when there are 2 or more guitarists in a band?
Generally, I'll have one guy play rhythm and the other guy play lead. It's just tighter that way. For proof of that concept, listen to the first couple Metallica records where James Hetfield played all the rhythms, and then listen to the ones where they let Kirk play rhythm on. Yeah, those were awesome, weren't they? Seriously though, if you got 2 guitar players in the band, divide the songs up. Find out who's better at what particular song and have that person play rhythm on those tracks and have the other guy play lead and vice versa. So if you got 10 songs, one guy plays 5 songs, the other guy plays the other 5, something like that, if you want to be democratic about it. But if one guy's a monster rhythm player, have him play the rhythms. Ultimately, you got to serve the song and the record and not the guitar player's ego.
Hi Glenn, have you ever thought about creating your own line of microphones? If so, which company would you want to work with? Cheers from Manchester, UK.
Funny you asked that. The question has definitely come up more than once, and Lewitt and I might be working on something. Stay tuned. It's going to be freaking cool, and I think you guys are really going to dig it.
And we all start out terrible. So true, this screams for a shirt.
Okay, dude, you asked for it, you got it. We all start out terrible. It's available for the next week only, and so if you want to get it now, or it's going to be gone for good.
Do you ever go into live mixing?
Well, I've done it a couple times, but here's the problem with that. You got to pack all your gear up, take it to the gig, set everything up, get everything mic'd up, get the levels, get everything going, do the show, then tear everything down and haul it all back to your studio. And then once you've made a live recording of that mix you did that night, you have to deal with the bands who want a copy of those mixes but don't want to pay you. Oh, just give me a rough version, just give me a little bit. No, fuck you, how about you fucking pay me? So yes, I have done some live mixing, but there are 2 mitigating factors. 1, bands don't want to pay you for your time when you go to mix the show. And 2, bands don't want to pay you for the recording you made of that show. They just want it all for free. So fuck that shit.
Coming from someone with 20 years of experience of writing tracks who hasn't found success until now. Nothing is truer than getting shit every step of the way, like Glenn said. The internet makes people think they're Anthony Fantano with a golden pussy, but the butt of the joke here is that no one ever built a statue for a critic.
That was in reference to my Crushing Self-Doubt video. If you haven't watched it, check it out. That's my little inspirational video for the year. Seriously, dude, glad you're finding some success. Yeah, the big trick is to just not give up.
Hey Glenn, with the whole Laurel and Yanni thing and people's hearing being different, is that difference significant enough to make people hear a mix in their own distinct way and also judge it differently?
I would think so, yes. It all depends on our perspective. This whole Laurel and Yanni thing reminds me of something I encountered back in the 70s. My mom was reading a book called Solo, and on the cover was an image of a grand piano, but if you looked at it a certain way, it was actually a gun. And I remember pointing that out, my mom going, wow, you're really observant. And the whole Laurel and Yanni thing, I actually heard it Yanni first until Adam Neely said, well, it's Laurel or Yanni. I'm like, oh, then I started hearing Laurel and I can't hear it Yanni anymore. Apparently on Power Metal Point, Brandon Wright's show, who contributes on here every now and then, if you slow it down a little bit, it says one. If you speed it up, it says the other. Interesting. But yeah, I think that does have an effect on how we mix. It's not saying one thing's any better than the other, but we all see the world a little bit differently from one another. All right, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Please keep those comments and questions coming. And if you like what I do and you want to keep YouTube fun, spend a buck, give a fuck, head on over to my Patreon and you can join the campaign to keep the profanity on SpectreSoundStudios and not have to worry about the advertisers yanking the rug out from under us. Thanks again for your support. I'll see you guys next time. Until then, Hasadigi boy.